Good afternoon, everybody. How's everybody doing today? My name is Mark Rodriguez from the Warrior Life Academy, and I'm known as the lung transplant stonemason. I am the recipient of 2 double lung transplants. She had her math right, but I call this one number 5 and this one number 6. 2 that God gave me and the 4 that my angel heroes gave me. Without our donor heroes, I would not be standing here today. My first transplant I received, I probably had about a day and a half left. I was diagnosed with silicosis fibrosis in 2010 from the work I did as a stonemason. Ironically, the surgeon had to take my lungs out with a hammer and chisel. 2 tools that I used to build my career were now being used to save my life. Well, I was good for almost 4 years, but then a fall caused a pulmonary embolism, size of a nickel, and that put me on my deathbed worse than ever before. But through God's grace and mercy, I received my second double lung transplant on January 24th, 2016. This coming January, I will be 9 years post my second. The average for a second double is less than 2 years. But I've never once woke up and aspired to be average or mediocre, so I don't look at averages. I'll leave that for somebody else. I know my donors weren't average. My first donor, Michelle Stella, was a victim of domestic violence. She fought so hard to stay alive long enough to save 6 people from death and helped out 15 other people that were not facing death. My second transplant, that was like night and day. I was on my deathbed for several months, something that should have killed me within days. I was getting close to battling with for 6 months now. And in that time, one of the most important people was my donor mom and dad, reminding me how much of a fighter I was and reminding me how much of a fighter their daughter was. We had very many connections. Believe it or not, I used to see her in ICU every night before I fall asleep. I don't know my second donor, so I've seen both sides of it. But definitely not knowing my second donor family is much harder. And I'm here to say thank you. Because without donors, without the donor families that allow a miracle to take place in the midst of their tragedies, it's a miracle in itself. So thank you very much. Had I not received this gift of life, I would not have been able to see my daughter graduate. I would not have been able to see my grandson. There were so many things that I would not have been able to do. One of them being marry my beautiful wife over here in 2021. I would not have been able to return one of my biggest blessings, and that's coming from a guy who's, through my craft and my love of stonemasonry. In 2020, of August of 2020, I returned back to stonework to be the only stonemason in the history of the world to ever do so after 2 double lung transplants. That's how the lung transplant stonemason was born. Because I've had transplants, I've been able to also go on to a new career of public speaking, motivational speaking. I've authored articles in the Los Angeles Tribune and the Seattle Independent, and have a book coming out next week called Just Breathe and Believe. The BREATHE is an acronym I came up with. It's believe relentlessly every time you're attempting tasks of healing and enlightenment. Just breathe. And the lungs are really the most important organ in your body because they're the ones that drive everything. God gave us life. He breathed the breath life into us. He didn't touch our heart and it started beating. He didn't rub our brain and it started working. He breathed life into us. And without the lungs, the heart won't work, the brain won't work, and nothing else will work. So anytime you're having a hard time, struggling with something, you're feeling really small because whatever you're up against feels really big, just breathe. You're calling God in, be part of your experience. See, Moses once asked God, what's your name? And God gave him the letters YHW. Well, these letters joined together are the only letters in the alphabet where you cannot touch your lips together or move your tongue. Don't they sound a lot like this? You took your first breath when you were born, said God's name. When you take your last